I just realized it was hardware muted. What's up? Hello. My mic, that is. Let's see. I'm going to turn down the music slightly. What up, what up? Hello. How are you? I am broadcast. Okay, I think things are working. I wanted to partially do... Oh, what the fuck? Oh god, all the transcripts are doubling. Why are they doing that? Wait, una momento. Is it cause this is getting? Send transcript event. Why are they doing that? Everything's doubling. Oh no. Ah, Jesus. Well, this is the reason I wanted to test it. So this one's just going to be a little scuffed on that front, but that's A-okay. I don't really care all that much. I'm doubling. Ostensibly, everything is doubling. Now, why? Why is that the case? I don't know. It has something to do with how things are getting added to the database. That's half of what I wanted to do today. It's do a little bit of tech testing. And I thought about doing that with like a note stream. In fact, John was like, hey, you should do a note stream soon. And I was like, I should. But the note streams... I haven't been super happy with the last couple because I go live to do a note stream and then I do like 2 notes. So if I'm going to do it, I want to actually do it. But I mainly wanted to do a bit of a tech test, make sure everything's even remotely stable, which, I mean, you know, everything getting doubled is not good. Ooh, that got tripled? No, it just doubled. So that's not good, but that's kind of stable at least. Yeah, that just means twice the talking. Yeah, exactly. I also wanted to show my face, say hello, say we are in fact doing Age of Umbra tomorrow. I am not totally sure on the health stuff. I basically got confirmation that the procedure that I had done would possibly would have detected it if it was the worst case scenario. Like, most likely would have detected it. But the CT may not have detected it. It has just like a chance that it wouldn't have. And even in the scenario, even in the scenario where it's not the worst case, there's a decent chance that the CT just doesn't pick it up. So good news, but not, out of the woods in terms of everything. I can walk home before we get to actual DH. Yeah, I do have it pulled up. It's right here. Consistently doubling is technically stable. That's what I'm saying, Daniel. That's what I'm saying. Also, my face looks weird. I think I'm just bloated from lack of sleep. Or maybe it's the lighting? I don't know what's going on, but my face looks weird to me. I also just put in a new tray. Ivy detection is never fun. Yeah. So let's see if this works. That works. Let's go. No, I always look like this. Thanks, Connor. But yeah, it's a tough thing where the thing that I had that they are testing for is very rare. It's like 4 recorded cases ever, or at least in the US, and I am one of the 4. And the other 3 that were not me had the tumors in their legs, not in their back. So even amongst the recorded cases, I am a big abnormality. So there's just a big question mark around how to detect it, because the ways that they have come up with to detect it are somewhat specific to the legs, and even those are kind of iffy because there's just not a lot of instances of it happening. Yeah. I have only skimmed Warlock, so I'll probably learn things and won't be the DH expert this time. Let's go. Let's see. Let's get over to it. Screen share. Oh, there we go. Okay, and I'll put my camera up a little bit this way. Not being the worst case scenario, something, I guess. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's I'm doing the best that I could be at this moment. There's just not a lot of there's just not a huge opportunity for me to be doing great, unfortunately. Okay, let's zoom in here a little bit. I think this is the correct one. I've got 2025-05, so May of 2025, version 1.3. I think that is the most recent. But yeah. Oh wait, I also wanna try something. Let's see. So 1.4 is the one that dropped today. Damn it! How dare they? How dare they drop a new version when I wasn't looking? Let's see. Open new window. Yada yada yada. Also, so these are the new the whole top words thing. Let's see. Okay. I've gotta do something. Let's see. Okay. We're going I made an improvement that I think will help me do polls. So we're going to do a poll, and normally I would have this up on screen like I normally do during, Age of Umbra, but I was not prepared. I just wanted to go live and do this before I didn't want to anymore, So we're just going to do a poll between the 3 classic D&D casters, and we're going to see how it looks. So there we go. All right, so I'm going to put it into poll mode. Wait. We've got to put it into poll mode. So it's in poll mode. So now type !1 if you like Warlock the most, 2 if you like Wizard, and 3 if you like Sorcerer. This is you voting for your favorite D&D caster of these 3, I suppose. And it should just be the !! number, and it should show up. Are we excluding Cleric? Yeah. And Bard. Sorry. They can get fucked. I don't know. Why? Okay, so it's not working. So that's good. So that's good. So it's not working. Oh, wait. Wait, it was working for like a moment. It was working for a moment, and then it stopped. Why did it stop? Okay, so it's not working. Is the thing that we know from that. Let me check one thing, then I'll put it away, because we've pretty much established that it's not working. So chat from Escaril, !2, !2, !2. My only theory is that it's filtering out. I put it to filter out numbers and then forgot about it. Let's see. I'm not gonna live fix it on stream, but I want to see if it's the first thing that I thought of, because if it is, then that might be good to know. Does it work like this? It would not work like that. I explicitly know that. It's only if the message starts with an ! But am I possibly filtering out the exclamation point before it even gets to that point? That is possible. Let's see, common words, etc., in processing the message. It filters that off, but it is a command. So it should, where do we call process chat message? Handle chat message received. Okay. So chat message received is there. What? Oh no. Okay. But where is... God, I hate asynchronous shit. And by hate, I mean I'm very fine with it. I'm just super not used to it. So broadcast controller, chat message received. I'm doing, event handlers and all that BS for the somewhat of the first time. It's not definitely the first time, but mostly in my professional career, I was just modifying code that people had already written. So I was just modifying the internal logic around event handlers. I was rarely making my own. So the incoming event with the data, I don't know. I don't see anywhere that I'm sanitizing it. So that's very awkward. They dropped a new classes too, Witch and Assassin. I heard. Maybe we'll look at those. I kind of doubt it. Just because this stream is 90% a tech test and 10% actually doing things. Well, I guess that just goes for the purpose of it, not actually what we're gonna do. We're gonna do more than that. Let's see. Also learning spells outside of level up. Whoa, that's weird. If you have \W in any reg expression, that's bad. Ooh, W does include numbers, but it is probably a reg expression. You're probably correct. I probably regex it at some point. Oh, I also see why the data is doubling. Because I'm just a little bit of a silly Billy, I might say. Okay, well, I'll look at it off stream. That's fine. On stream, we will look at... We're going to take this bad boy off. Goodbye. And we're going to get rid of you. Hello. And then we're going to look at some Warlock. Spells outside of level up was in reference to my Wizard versus Warlock. Oh, I see. I love Warlock RP in fantasy, but Wizard spell list, man. I see. That's fair. It's a real collect-em-all type of class, which I can absolutely appreciate. The next time, well... This is low on my list. If I started playing a lot for some reason and had a bunch of different characters, then maybe this, but this is the 5th or 6th character I would actually want to play. But I do want to play a Wizard Order of the Scribes at some point. Because that is really just collect them all. Which seems very, very fun to me. Let's see. Is this one... What did they say came out today? 1.4? Version 1.4 is the one that dropped. Okay. I've got it. All right. Let's take a look. And I'll put it out there immediately. I've not completely kept up with Daggerheart in the way that maybe a pocket dimension has. So there might be some things in here that seem strange to me, but I'm relatively up to date on it, I would say. Definitely not completely up to date, but relatively. Oh wait, let's see. And then all right, there we go. They posted a video about the update. You could watch it. You know, I've thought about that. I like reading things and forming opinions and then letting my opinions be compared to other people's by you guys. And that's not like, it's not a huge thing for me. But if there's a way to consume it that isn't being filtered through like their performance of like making the video about it, I do find the video very interesting because I think it reveals more of like what they care about and like what they want to talk about. So maybe I'll do both. But I definitely want to read it first, and then maybe if we have time, I'll check it out. It doesn't go into any detail. Well, that's the thing that I think is sometimes interesting about it. Like I like both aspects of it, of seeing the things that they felt compelled to talk about versus what is actually in the document. But I don't. Yeah. But one of those is definitely lower on the sort of priority hierarchy for me. Let's see. Okay, Warlock, Dread, and Grace. Which Grace is... Here, let me pull up Demiplane so that I also have everything pulled up that I might need from there. So, game rules. Because I believe... What? Oh, sign in. Okay. 1 second. Let me take that off. Log in. That. Because I believe Grace is what? Bard and question mark? I mean, I did love Grace as a domain. I remember that being the only reason that I even wanted to play Bard. Because I thought that the Bard abilities were pretty mid. But I really loved the the Grace domain. Let's see. Daggerheart. Demiplane logs out so often. It really does. I'm not going to complain about it too hard and loud because I do love Demiplane compared to competitors. But it is kind of annoying how often it logs out. Let's see. Okay. I like reading things and forming my own opinions. Me when the professor asked me what I think about their course. Yeah. Wait, domains. Okay. Does it list the... Oh, well, there you go. Bard. Grace. Details. So I guess that's... Grace isn't in the book, I suppose. Rules. Oh, no, it is. Wait, what? Oh, God. Do I have to go into, like, creating a character to see? Probably not. I can't imagine. Domains. There we go. I was like, I know that I'm doing something wrong here. I know it's probably not Demiplane. Let's see. And then Dread, I'm assuming, is attached to this. Yeah, okay, Dread's attached to this. We'll get to that later. Okay. Domains. Class features. Okay. So this is where the subclasses as well. So this is the guide. This is the leveling up. Where's... Oh, these are all specializations. Oh, these are Warlock, not... Oh, interesting. Okay. So where is the subclasses? Do they only have one? Or is that the Warlock patron? They just don't have subclasses. Because immediately I'm looking for like, okay, what are the class features? What are the subclass features? But instead, do they have these packs, these specializations, foundations? Ah, wait, I'm seeing it. Pact of the Endless, Pact of the Wrathful. These are the subclasses. I'm remembering how these classes are formulated now. Oh yeah, look at that. Warlock Sublass. Oh, you guys can't even see Warlock Sublass. No. Wait, let me scroll it out. Ah, there we go. Warlock Sublass has entered the chat. Hello. Oh, man. You know what? I hadn't thought about presenting the subclasses in terms of individual cards. And I don't know if that's just like an outdated thing. Like, I don't know if they have added or if they have like changed the subclasses to all, or the classes, I should say, to all look like that. But I do like that. I mean, I think the card aspect of Daggerheart is a strong theme. Okay, yeah, they don't have it themed like that in this document, at least. But I personally think it's very strong. Like, just in terms of, like, publishing flexibility. Like, being able to publish card packs, card sets. Being like, oh, this is the new set of cards. Or this is a new subclass. Or you can, if we split them out into cards, just how easy is that to homebrew, right? Like, if you have the Warlock subclass represented by 3 cards rather than, a big block of text, it's like, oh, I can easily swap out the specialization here for either a homebrew specialization, a third-party specialization, whatever have you. So I think the card theming is so strong. I really, the more I see it, the more I like it. When we were talking about Age of Umbra, I was like, I want them to put out, all of the Age of Umbra stat blocks, right? Like, all of the blocks that Matt is using. Like, I want to be able to run Velk the Forsaken. You know what I'm saying? At my table. I think that'd be so cool. And so them... And the fact that they can all be formatted as these little cards, I can picture the Age of Umbra Critical Role card set, and it's all of the cards from that. And obviously, you could make your own as well. I know they have the card editor software, which, by the way, so sick, so encouraging of homebrew and third party. Like, the fact that they not only are leaning into it in their own design, but then allowing it to so easily be replicated by homebrewers, or third party. Because third party publishers always could. There's what's the program? DM Binder, I think, that lets you kind of format your homebrew or your third party stuff like D&D's kind of general look and feel. That's great, but that's also a third-party tool. So the fact that they are putting it out, number one, not only, I think, good business sense. Like, the card creator would have existed at some point. You know what I'm saying? So them being the one to develop it, I think, was a good move on their part. But it's also showing a willingness and a cooperation with the community that, not only builds a lot of trust, but is also just awesome. There's the oh, I think this is ethically good and morally good. And I think it's good business sense, It's just all green flags all the way down. Yeah. It's also good for people who have access to the card builder. Yeah. Better for errata. Also great for errata. I didn't even think about that. But yeah. Being able to just put out oh, this is the second version. And you even see it down here, right? At the bottom of the card. Artist name TK, the Void 1.4, terms at daggerheart.com. You could easily put out errata V2 or whatever, right there. It just works. Everything about it. Publishing cards is probably easier than publishing books. I have to imagine, yeah. You get subclass text in official publications, but it all fits on cards. Yeah, that's also fair. There's also the home brewery, also third party. Yeah, which is kind of what I'm saying. It's I think something like the card builder would have existed no matter what. So I think it's not only a good move for them, but I think good for everyone overall that program is owned and operated by Daggerheart. Like, it's going to result in a better product, I think, because they are going to be able to edit it and update it in concordance with how the game updates and changes. It's not going to be like DM Binder or Homebrewery or whatever, where they either have to build their program flexible enough to keep up with changes, but that flexibility comes at a cost, or they have to update it in like a lag time with the actual official product. So I don't know. I'll stop talking about the cards, but I like them a lot. Let's see here. Okay, Patron's Boon. Spend 3 hope to call out to your patron for help, gaining 1d4 favor. Interesting. Is this... This seems like a class feature. I'm having a little bit of trouble parsing this because it's not set up in the same way that, like, the kind of official text is, right? But I'm assuming this is, like, one of the class features. But it's formatted in a nice way for a character sheet. Like, I like the way it's formatted for a character sheet, but I'm having trouble deciding exactly what it is. Spend 3 up to call out to your patron for help, gaining 1d4 favor. Favor's interesting. Sounds like a custom class resource, which is very interesting because there are not that many class resources, or at least they don't. I wouldn't say they take a very prominent role in Daggerheart. Like, you have the rally die for Bard. I know that there's the prayer die on Seraph. But I'm trying to think of the other ones. Does Druid have anything? I don't think so. They might have, like, wild. No, they just spend 3 hope. Because hope, hope is kind of the overall class resource. So by forcing you to convert hope into favor, that's kind of interesting. They are not only making the amount of favor random, but you're going to be getting less favor overall than everyone else is going to be gaining hope. You know what I'm saying? So, like, 1d4, average of a 1d4 is 2.5, as we all know. So, by making you spend 3 hope to gain 2.5 favor, that means that you're going down. Which is also interesting. What is that reduction in terms of, like, the amount gained? Like, what is 2.5 over 3? It's 83%. Interesting. So that means that, like, on average, the Warlock is gaining less favor than the DM is gaining fear. That's interesting, huh? The Warlock's Hope feature is an alternative way to power its class feature. Interesting. Much like the Druid. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? Because evolution is not transforming one resource into another resource, right? This is spending hope to do a thing, right? Oh, no, actually, sorry. It is an alternative way, because Beast Form, you can just mark a stress. Well, that's a whole different discussion. That's equating hope to stress. That's saying 3 hope is worth 1 stress, which is not... It's not exactly the same, you know? Because stress is also, like, a negative thing that can be applied to you, like... Stress is a class resource. Like, things do use it kind of as a class resource, but it's also a consequence. So in this way, it's saying, like, yeah, maybe spending 3 hope isn't a good deal, but this is like an alternative way to get in there without marking a stress. So the question now is, can the Warlock do something similar? Can they mark a stress to gain favor? Let's see. Warlock Patron. You have committed yourself to a patron, god, demon, fae, or other supernatural entity in exchange for power. Write their name above. Then choose their spheres of influence. Ooh, does that matter? I hope that matters. Nature and mischief, love and war, knowledge and shadow, etc. That's so specific that I really hope it matters. Record them below and set their value to +2. Anytime you increase your tier, these spheres of influence also gain a permanent +1 bonus. Before making an action roll that relates to one of your patron's spheres of influence, you may spend a favor to call on them and add its value to the roll. Oh! So they're special experiences. Fascinating. There's special experiences. Yeah. So, in that case, I was just about to go and look something up, but I can't remember what it was going to be. Okay, interesting. Favor. So you can hold 6 favor, equivalent to how many hope you can hold. Okay. Start with 3 favor. Sure. During a rest, take one of your downtime actions to tithe to your patron. When you do, gain favor equal to your presence. If you choose to forego this, the GM gains a fear. Whoa. Huh. That is weird. This is a 1.4 new thing as well, the spheres. I'm into them. But you have to spend a favor. Oh, that's what I was going to look up. How much hope do you have to spend to activate an experience? That's what I wanted to look up. I guess it would be, where would that be? It would be like in probably in the game rules around, probably just rules. I'll just look up. Let's see. Experience. Activating a hope feature, adversary experience. Can I just experience? Your character starts with 2 experiences. You are also encouraged to add flavor once you've decided. Experience using. You can spend a hope. So it's just a hope. Record them anytime you increase before making an action roll. Okay. So it's basically just experience, but you have to spend a favor. Interesting. And a favor is about 0.8. A favor... how do I say it? A hope is... I guess it would be the opposite way, right? 3 over 2.5. 1.2. So a favor is like... spending a favor is like spending 1.2 hope. 1 1/5 hope. So it's more expensive, is kind of what I'm getting at. In terms of like how much you're going to gain them on average, right? But... so favor equal to your presence. Presence is the charisma sort of stand-in. Let me think about that. So what is like the average presence going to be, and what is the downtime action like to gain, let's see, probably in rules again. What is the downtime action like to gain hope, right? Downtime action. Downtime. Sure, probably in here. Presumably, it also stacks with an experience bonus. I would assume that if you have the favor and the hope to do both, I would assume it stacks. Because they are explicitly different things, you know. these spheres of influence are not, hey, gain 2 new experiences, right? They're totally distinct, even though they essentially act as experiences. So what is the downtime action? Where's the list of downtime moves? Oh, I guess they'd be downtime moves? Downtime consequences? Downtime moves? Nope. Clearing hit points. Let's see. Is there one that's like recovering hope? Long rest? Ah, there it is. Prepare. Describe how you prepare for the next day's adventure, then gain a hope. If you choose to prepare with one or more party members, you each gain 2 hope. Now that's very interesting to me. That's very, very interesting to me. So the math is lopsided on it, which I like. I really like. So far, I like the tone that these are sort of evoking, right? Spheres of influence are also much more general than a player's experiences will typically be. Fair. So they're more broadly applicable, yeah. Presence is probably going to be at least a +3 from levels 2 to 5. I think levels 2 to 5 are a good kind of benchmark for us to look at. So, in that case, if we're just looking at you expending a downtime action, right? Here, if you prepare and you expend a downtime action, you're gaining 1 hope. Even if you do it with someone else, you gain 2. Whereas, according to Sponge, which I believe, past level 2 to, in the level 2 to 5 range, you're getting a presence +3. So now you're gaining 3 favor on if you spend the downtime action. That's really interesting. So you're gaining more kind of equivalent value than you would. If we view, say, especially with these like sphere of influence things, these give us a really direct comparison to experiences, which cost hope. So if we consider them about equal, which it seems like the spheres of influences are actually maybe a little bit, I don't want to say better, but maybe more powerful, we might say. That means that in order to activate a similar ability, experiences versus sphere of influence, you're gaining more ability to do that on a long rest where you choose to get favor, where you choose to tithe, but you're getting less ability to do that if you do Patron's Boon right here, calling out for your patron to help, gaining 1d4 favor, right? Which I love. Like, to be clear, I love that. It's one of, I think, the big, I don't want to say dark spots necessarily, but I think one of the ways in which D&D 5e's Warlock does not evoke, or at least does not force the evoking of the Warlock class fantasy, is that there is no mechanical reason that a Warlock needs to do things for their patron, right? There is no mechanical enforcement of upholding your end of the contract, in a sense. Now, I think it's very common for DMs to work that in, and I think they absolutely should. But even when you look at something like the Paladin, right? Even though the Paladin doesn't put super strict rules or guides on what it means to break an oath, they still mention it. Like, the Paladin still acknowledges breaking an oath as something that a Paladin might do, and they offer the Oathbreaker in the DM's guide. The Warlock has no equivalent. The Warlock doesn't give GMs guidance on what to do if their Warlock refuses to uphold their side of the pact or, tries to actively subvert the patron. None of that is evoked within the class design. And I'll be honest, I don't even really love the way that Paladin does it. Like, I think Paladin does it more, but I don't love the way that Paladin handles it either. This, I'm super duper fucking into. Super duper duper into. Because this is essentially saying you need to spend one of your limited actions during downtime in order to gain your power. Like, that is so transactional in the best way. Like, that is hyper transactional. It is, I've got to do something that no one else in the party has to do. And that's where I'm going to get most of my power, right? Now my power is I can activate a, experience-like ability for much cheaper, right? That's the power that I have gained via my patron. And the fact that it's restricted to your patron's domains of influence, fantastic. Love that. But I love that evokes the transaction. That's delightful. And even this patron's boon, to me, this goes one step further into solidifying the transactional nature of everything. Is, your patron is like, you do something within the bounds of the contract, they do something within the bounds of the contract. If you're asking them for an exception, right, this is you essentially coming to your boss and asking for like them to like front your next paycheck, right? Saying like, hey, like you can you give me my paycheck like a week early, right? That's essentially what patron's boon is. And so I love that having this randomness here, and that potentially being like a huge trade down in resources. So I love that. It really evokes this transactional nature to me, which is one of the core parts of the fantasy for Warlock, at least to me. So I'm super into that. And then if you choose not to do it, you remember, like I was just fucking saying, D&D doesn't have any real mechanical repercussions, and there's not even guidance on what to do if your warlock is continuously doing it. But not only, like, if you choose not to do it, right? If you choose not to tithe, not only are you not getting the favor, and this is the best way to gain favor. Like, if you're not doing it this way, you're going down on resources. Like, you are gaining less resources than you should. And the GM gains a fear, which is an amazing way. I mean, don't even get me started on how much I love the fear mechanic. But what an incredible way to model your patron getting mad at you. What an incredible way to model the consequences of subverting your patron's will. Is just it's simple. It's simple, it's clean. It's not overly complicated. You could easily make it more complicated if you wanted to. A GM could easily say, hey, if you don't tithe 3 rests in a row, then you're going to have maybe some escalating problems. I could easily see this sort of mechanic escalating in that way. But I fucking love it. That's awesome. Let's see. Downtime is short or long, though, so you'd have to do it anytime you rest or GM gets a fear. Yeah! Fuck yeah, you do! Oh, yes! That's exactly what I want. Oh, that's great. Because I love 5e Warlock. I think that's why people have been, asking me to look at this, wanting to get my piece on it. I love the flavor of Warlock. Warlock is my favorite 5e subclass in terms of its design and implementation. But I will tell you right now, this is hitting on parts of the class fantasy that 5e does not even touch. And stuff that I wish it touched. And this, man, Like, I fucking love that it forces you to do it during short rests. That's great. Like, that is... I think that Warlock should be locked in to certain requirements. In a similar way that I think that Paladin should have some consequences if they don't follow their oaths, right? You have chosen this pact. You're going to have some problem. You got some shit you got to do during downtime. So, and how many? So long rest, you get 2 actions. You can choose 2 of the following moves or the same move twice. Short rest is 1 action. Am I correct in that? Short rest is 1 action. Sick. Fucking awesome. Let's see. Yeah, and it still has the prepare feature. So the prepare feature is the same. Oh, no. Short rest is still 2 of the following moves. Oh. Yeah, you got to give up half your moves in order to gain your class resource. Perfect. That's what you should have to do. And then you should be more powerful than the average person in repayment for that. Like, that is hitting on the core Warlock fantasy so well to me. Again, I take all this with a grain of salt. This is my version of the Warlock class fantasy. But in my mind, Warlock should be more powerful than like a wizard, like an equivalent caster wizard. But they should have more requirements, right? Wizard put in the hard work. They learned all their spells. They went to school. So they deserve the flexibility. They deserve, everything, all the benefits that they get. Sure. But Warlock took the shortcut to power. And if the wizard's power is going to come from that flexibility of having this classical education. You can have this spell book. You can organize all your spells really well. Good for you. You don't have to rely on memory like the rest of us. If Warlock is taking the shortcut, they should be more powerful than that. Because otherwise, why would they not just be a wizard, right? They should be more powerful than the wizard, but they should have more requirements. It should be harder for them to just operate in general. Their power needs to come at a cost. That Faustian bargain sort of situation. So I love this. You have to give up half of your downtime actions, but you get a way better version of an experience. Hell yeah. Now, in terms of actual play, how would I feel about the power? I don't know. We'd have to see. I haven't played enough to know if that would do it for me as like the core sort of ability. But I will tell you, the feel of those abilities, love it. Love it. The GM getting 1 fear isn't super terrible, so it could easily be worth deciding not to tithe and heal some HP and give the GM fear. Oh, exactly. That is also why I do like the fear. I'll be honest, maybe I'm a little bit of a masochist. I kind of wish the GM gained a fear for every consecutive rest you've skipped. I know I'm just making it worse for myself. Don't get me wrong. But I kind of wish that it was like, you skip 1 rest, that's 1 fear. You skip 2 rests without tithing, that's 2 fear. 3 rests, 3 fear. Now, I think that sort of escalation might get your other players mad at you. But I think I'm a little bit of a masochist in that way. Yeah, tenants are kind of lip service. This is an actual mechanical representation of having a deal to uphold. Exactly. And it makes there be like a very nice in fiction opportunity for you to role play, right? Like, I think that one of the problems with clerics, with warlocks, not so much with paladin, honestly, because paladin is just an oath you are always upkeeping. So there's not this dissonance of like, when do I uphold my oath and when do I not? You just are always upholding your oath. Whereas like cleric, warlock, druid in some interpretations, these things have entities that you're interacting with that might ask things of you. But there's a weird dissonance there, or not dissonance, I guess, but there's a weird complication there of if you're playing at the table with other people that do not have those requirements from their class, well, anytime you want to play out that class fantasy, you're sort of taking the spotlight away from other people. And now imagine that you have other things about your character that you also want to explore that also require you to take the spotlight for your own, personal plot beats. Now you're kind of like playing the selfish class all of a sudden. So I think that's why a lot of DMs and players might hedge away from really exploring that patron relationship unless it's like a really key part of their character, right? If it's not a core part of the arc that you want your character to go on, I think it often doesn't get too explored because it just feels like it's taking up too much air in the room. Whereas this gives you a direct time, right? Like I compared it to Paladin, right? The Paladin knows you're always, theoretically, upkeeping them. Every action you make has to do with your oath. So there's no, sometimes you're going into the spotlight. That's like a character-defining thing. This is not that, but it defines in-fiction moments where you can play out that patron relationship. What does it look like for you to tithe to the patron of knowledge and shadow? What does it look like for you to tithe to the patron of love and war? Like, do you have to have an orgy? Do you have to, do you have to choke yourself a little bit for love and war every downtime? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there, right? Nature and mischief. Maybe for nature and mischief, you have to prank your... You have to prank your party members every rest or every time you tithe. And you can easily just say, I tithe, we don't have to act it out. But it gives you a very clear moment where it's like, okay, I'm tithing. This is a time where I could role play out a bit of my patron dynamic. And that's a really nice thing to provide to a player. So I'm super into it. Super into it. Calling in sick to the patron. Oh, in terms of patron's boon? Essentially, yeah. In a campaign frame that has bespoke downtime actions, it would go especially hard. That's what I'm fucking saying, dude. If the Umbra downtime thing were more necessary, that would be juicy. I love it. I'm so into this. Even if they could change the entire spheres of influence mechanic. Like this is cool. I think it makes sense. Like I'm not remotely against it. But I would say, I'm not as into spheres of influence as I am into, Pact Boon or Invocations, right? I love Invocations. I think they evoke like the contract-esque feel. But this is fine. I love Favor. I was prepared. I don't know if you heard the hesitance in my voice. I was prepared to really not like Favor when I read this thing. My instinct was whatever. My instinct was similar to my instinct when I read fucking the Scion. When I read the new Mystic, Unearthed Arcana, and I see that they have these dice for their class resource, and I'm like, meh, who cares? That's how I feel with like Monk and Key. I'm like, who gives a shit about Key? That's what I was very ready for here. I was incredibly ready for that when I first read this. Not at all. That's amazing. This is an amazing way to represent the dynamic relationship that is at the core of Warlock. A+. I'm so into it. This, whatever. This is fine. I'd have to play it out to feel it, but no, I think this is an incredibly justified reason to introduce a new class mechanic or a class resource, because that was the other thing, even separate from something like the Scion, right? The Scion has to have a class resource of some kind, right? Every class in D&D has some manner of class resource. And you might be scrolling through your head right now and being like, well, fighter, action surge, second wind. Even if they're not, even if they're not as abundant as something like spell slots, every class has a class resource. So Mystic had to have one. I get it. Scion. But Daggerheart's not the same. Daggerheart has hope. It has stress. Classes don't need a class resource in Daggerheart. So now if one exists, I think it needs to be justified. Favor is more than justified. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. What if you... Ooh, oh, wait. Mega, what you think of the wizard spell list in comparison to Warlock? Fair enough? Or should Warlock get a little more utility, even if they don't get time stop, warp reality, summon dead god, etc. for 5e specifically? No, I think the Warlock's power and the Warlock's utility and their flexibility comes from invocations. And I think that if you feel as though invocations do not offer enough utility, you might be hyper-focusing too much on Eldritch Blast. I'm gonna be real straight up with you. Eldritch Blast is possibly the best damaging cantrip in the game, at least debatably, irregardless of invocation modifications. Invocations just make it better. But you can play an incredibly satisfying Warlock from 1 to 20, never taking an EB invocation. And the invocations have things like Mask of Many Faces, Disguise Self at will. Wizard could never. You know what I'm saying? I guess Wizard maybe Disguise Self specifically when they get their spell mastery, but they couldn't for a while, to be clear. Ascendant Step, Levitate at will. I don't think Wizard could do that. Things like Voice of the Chain Master, being able to speak through your familiar. Amazing. So I think if you, and I'm not saying you do feel this way. I know you just asked for my opinion. So I'm speaking to a nebulous person that does not that thinks Warlock does not have enough utility in 5e. If you think that, I think you are possibly hyper-focusing too much on Eldritch Blast. Because there are a dozen or more amazing invocations that really fill that utility gap, in my opinion. We didn't even talk about one with the shadows. Invisible as long as you stand still. Incredible. Let's see. Finally, Coffee Lock. It's a good thing you sometimes want to give Gem of Fear a choice where you only ever choose one option as a false choice. Totally agree. Totally agreed there. It's really late, and when Mega said shadow, my brain thought of the hedgehog. Favor also powers a significant chunk of the subclasses. Ooh, let's see. Okay, that's good. That's good. I was so happy when I saw they added the playtest Brawler to Demiplane. I'm planning on playing one in an upcoming one-shot and can't wait for it. Brawler seems, it's an interesting thing to tackle, and I think them tackling it as Brawler, not as, Monk, or not as, Pugilist, whatever, is a good decision. I think capturing both Monk and Pugilist inside of one Brawler, even to an extent, maybe a Strength Rogue sort of feel. I think capturing all of that within Brawler is a good direction to go. I've not read the class, so I can't speak on how it's exactly implemented, but that seems like a good decision. Let's see. Okay, all right. Alrighty. Suggested traits. +1 agility, -1 strength, 0 finesse. What? Oh, there's 6. I'm an idiot. All right. 1 instinct, 2 presence, 0 knowledge. I read these 3 and was like, what? They don't give +2 to presence? I'm just dumb. They do. Was happy about the name too. I have negative finesse. I'm not silky smooth. The character will just be a hulking giant brawler. Absolutely. And I think even like I'm so happy that I think it's not. I'm not so happy because I'm not. I like those class fantasies, but not like hugely. Not like as into them as something like the Warlock. But something about Brawler that I really love is that I think it evokes both the thug aspect, the mountain with fists the size of boulders, right? That still feels like a brawler, but it also kind of, to me, can feel a bit like the featherweight, right? The monk that's like ducking in and out and like getting a punch in here, an uppercut there. I can still envision that as a brawler. It's a little bit further away, but I think it still gets at the core feel of fighting with your fists in and out. Boom, boom, boom. Still feels like a brawler. It's very Mike Tyson. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I don't watch boxing. Anyways, let's see. All of these are like almost always the same, right? These aren't crazy different. These are, I think these are the same. Okay, Pact of the Endless. So these are the foundations that you would choose. Okay. Pact of the Endless, spellcasting trait presence. Pact of the Wrathful, spellcasting trait presence. Now here's the only thing that I will say. I liked that a lot of these subclasses utilized different spellcasting traits. I understand if they want to make Warlock just a presence caster. I think that's a little, I don't want to say short-sighted, but so what are the two options? Pact of the Endless, Pact of the Wrathful. Pact of the Wrathful, that feels presence to me. Pact of the Endless? If it's like an Eldritch Old Ones sort of feel, I think there's a really easy argument for knowledge. And even on Wrathful, I think there's an easy argument for instinct. If it were me, right, if I was designing this, I would say when you do gain favor equal to your spell casting trait is what I would say. I think that I would like that. And just take presence out of the favor ability. And then leave yourself more flexibility for possibly changing the spellcasting trait on one of the subclasses. Especially, I think that, I don't want to say it future-proofs it, but I think it also, homebrew-proofs it more, which easily, if I'm already homebrewing the spellcasting trait, I can easily homebrew the favor. But I think there's something to be said there. I understand why Warlock is viewed as a charisma caster, but I do think it leaves some of the class fantasy on the table a little bit. Are you going to cover heritage options? Maybe. I'm not sure. Today is primarily Warlock, and then I'm probably off. But maybe at some point in the future. Yeah. So far, every subclass has the same casting stat, which is very odd. It feels unnecessary. I guess it in and of itself is future-proofing. The fact that your subclass does define your spellcasting trait is a form of future-proofing. But it's very weird that they would look at them all to me and be like, we gotta keep these the same, I agree that they shouldn't rigidly stick to that rule, yeah. Well, and it's also if you already have the benefit of having the spellcasting trait, why hard code presence up here, right? Like to me, it's like if you already have the spellcasting trait defined by the subclass, might as well say spellcasting trait up here. Now that might just be, new subclass syndrome. You know what I'm saying? Or it might be playtest syndrome, right? In the final release, they might edit that, but we'll see. Assassin subclasses have different spellcasting traits. There you go. Where you go. What's one thing you really like that you wouldn't be telling bros? Kind of like, can't let gang know I fuck with this? Like, one opinion. Ooh. I'm a pretty open book. Like, I'm not, There was a lot of things when I was younger, but I've become much more open in my elder years. But I'm sure there is something that, like, if someone directly asked me about it, I might cop to, but I don't actively talk about. I'm seeing if there's anything on the shelves that could give me inspiration. Oh, okay, maybe. I can't let the gang know that I fuck with some white girl pop songs, Luffy or something like that. I see. I feel it. I get what you're saying. I think the closest thing is like a type of media, because I love Survivor. I think Survivor is a really, really well done TV show. And so that's what I tend to talk about when I talk about reality shows. But I also get down with some, like, Love is Blind, with some Love Island. I like watching trashy people be trash to each other. And honestly, when people on, like, Love is Blind or Love Island are too nice, it kind of turns me off. Like, when they're, like, too good of people, I get uninterested. I definitely like watching people act shitty to each other in like a watching a car crash sort of way. But I probably wouldn't love talking that down with my friends. Yeah. That's valid. You pass. Hell yeah. All right. Reality TV is trashy, but I haven't seen it get too ugly to not think about what the production team is doing. That's fair. And I think that's why I chose that answer to the question, is because, like, I don't think anyone should really watch, like, Love is Blind. I think it is a net negative on society. I'll be directly real with y'all. I think it's a net negative to society that Love is Blind exists. But I do partake. I partake in the I don't watch TikTok, right? I don't do a lot of the social media stuff that people do that they know is bad for them. But that's the thing that I do. I don't even do it that often, but I do get into, like, moods. Yeah. Like when they go, "You're not the father." Yeah, the family court TV show. Yeah. I guess trash TV in general. I do love that kind of shit. Even when I think about it being, like, exploitative, or like I can sometimes I will watch something and be like, it is bad that this thing exists, but I will still partake. That's probably the thing that I would talk about the least. Like one of the worst things that one of the worst things I do, I guess, but yeah, one of the things I'm, I guess, the least proud of. Yeah. The React slop for the older generations, I guess. Yeah. A bit in a way. Yeah. Oh, man. I'm like, that was some things I enjoyed. This should not exist, but damn, it's fun. Yeah. Mine is, I've never played a Pokemon game. Don't tell the neurodivergent community to send a giant neon mosquito to suck the autism out of me. Yeah, dude, they'll take away your card, bro. Look, I will say I loved Pokemon when I was younger, and I've tried to get back into it as an adult. I'll be real. Shit's too easy. Shit's too easy. And like the ways to make it hard also make it tedious as hell. Like, which that's fine. It's a kid's game. I don't care. But man, like it's shit. Like I watch some Pokemon like YouTubers. Like I'll watch Wolfie. I'll watch like Wolfie VGC. But I got people that play Pokemon. Like they'll either play Pokemon Showdown or they'll still play the new games, and they're very into it. And I just can't. I'm down to watch professionals be really good at like the hard version of it, but I tried actually participating in the hard version, and God bless America, was it tedious? Oh my God, it was so boring. Oh, man. So, yeah, man. I don't know. No ethical consumption under capitalism and all that. Yeah. True. On a serious note, I feel bad for the kids, but on the other hand, yeah, I told you they look just like you. He's your baby. Yeah. Exactly, dude. One thing that if gang knew you didn't fuck with, you'd be put on the cross? If the gang knew I didn't fuck with it. Ooh. I mean, I think unless they watch stream, most people don't know how much I don't fuck with music. Stream knows, but it's not something I talk about. Something I don't fuck with. Man, I'm pretty upfront with shit I don't like. I'm pretty upfront about that. I'm trying to think of something that my friends like. Because the thing about my friends is that we just talk a lot. And we talk about the shit we like a lot. And we like participate in it together. So if there's something that like the group likes, they would have inevitably asked me to do it with them. And I would have had to explain that I didn't want to. Although I guess maybe like in some cases I would have done it anyways. I can't think of anything like that. I can't think of anything that I do with the group, even though I don't really like it. People charging at you for not knowing your princes. Yeah. Gang didn't know I didn't fuck with computer science. I'd be burning at the stake. All my bros in the hood trying to learn how to code and to hack into security cameras. Yeah, man. What would it be? That's one I might have to get back to you on. I can't think of something I don't like that I haven't revealed. Look at the shelf. The shelf did help earlier. If people knew that I didn't like this. Like, people know that I don't like food. People know that I don't like sleep. The closest thing I can come to is, I guess maybe the group doesn't know the full extent to which I don't like food. Like, I think maybe, like, the full extent to which I don't like doing activities. I just like talking to people. But I have noticed that a lot of people feel as though they need an activity in order to facilitate discussion. And I think maybe the gang wouldn't fuck with it if they knew how often I like play games purely in order to facilitate talking to them. Or do some manner of activity just to facilitate talking to them. It's not like that often, but it is probably more often than they would suspect. Yeah. Those are tough questions, but I do like them. Fat Yoshi out here playing Watch Dogs. Getting kicked out of film class for saying Pulp Fiction is just all right. Look. Dude, it's tough with old movies like that. Because, like, I just watched The Godfather the other day. I really liked it. It's a good movie. But there are parts of it that are hard to watch as a modern viewer because they have been iterated on and expanded and failed at and improved at so much. Like, like The Godfather was such a defining cultural movie that it has just been not even like directly referenced, but like thematically referenced or symbolically referenced or built upon or rejected or subverted. It has been interacted with in so many ways by so many movies since that it is hard to watch it and not be like so fucking aware of it the entire time. You know what I'm saying? Like when bro sees the horse's head in his bed, that was a truly tense moment with a lot of like buildup. And then he screams and they like frame the scream and his reaction in maybe one of the most disappointing ways I've ever seen. Like, like not to make this a Godfather stream by any means, but his reaction to seeing the horse's head in his bed was the most wildly disappointing and like slapstick silly thing I have seen in a long time. But like I can't blame them because better reactions to that sort of thing, in no small part inspired by that moment, have been done so many times. So it's like at this point, it's like that moment is kind of dumb, but at the time, it was, you know, it was defining. It was defining. You be talking about some, I'm finna destroy this system show, it's bad. Yeah. The reveal of the story. Oh, Yoshi. No, I gotta get back. This one is not as themed as a normal one, which is why I'm engaging with your questions. And you can reveal the thing if you want. The thing is, I just might not engage with it. That's the warning I'll give you. I might not engage with it. And I might delete the messages if I think they're a weird vibe. But we'll see. So I'm going to get back to the Warlock. So, Pact of the Endless. I'm assuming Goo. I'm assuming, I'm assuming Great Old One, Fathomless, that Eldritch Beings, that sort of shit. Patron's Mantle. Mark a stress to transform into a terrifying visage that lasts until you take severe damage or the scene ends. While transformed, you can spend a favor in place of an armor slot. You have advantage on rolls to intimidate a target. Okay. Okay. Do we read the cards or just pull them up? We just pulled them up. That's fine. I don't know, man. This is, how do I say it? This is an example of what I would call like a super form. You know what I'm saying? A super form. Which, if you're not familiar with Daggerheart, essentially think of like Barbarian Rage, right? And I don't dislike super forms, but I think, how do I say it? I think Daggerheart has leaned on them quite a bit, if my memory serves. My memory might be off. They might, they throughout the betas, they might have changed the prevalence of them. but these rage-like forms. You could also theoretically call some... that small italicized font. Let's see. It's tough because it doesn't... I guess I can just zoom in and I can just... Yeah, there we go. That's better. That's better. It's like... That is... Yeah, so it's similar to Rage, and you could even call it similar to Wild Shape. And I'll be real, I'm not that into either of those abilities. Like, one of the reasons I like 524 Wild Shape more than 514 Wild Shape, even though I know that that's not not possibly the majority opinion, is because I really like that they reduced the ability, or they reduced the chance of you dropping out of it. They say basically you only drop out of it either, when the time elapses, but it's a very long time, or when you, when you get to 0 health, because it just uses your health instead. And I like that because it makes it a little bit less of like this like super form type thing. It just builds it into like your tool set of abilities. And even like the timing on Wild Shape is mostly to do with like you staying in it for really long periods of time for like time abstraction purposes, right? So... And it's like, it's until you take severe damage or the scene ends. Those are fine. But like the scene ending it's not necessarily out of your control as a player, but it's certainly not like strongly within your control. And the severe damage is interesting because you being able to spend favor in place of an armor makes it to where basically as long as you have favor, you can basically not do that. You can not take severe damage. I guess unless you got crit, right? But I don't know. It seems like something that is almost like you can almost stay in it long enough that I wouldn't consider it a super form, but there are still ways that you can. And like the spending favor in place of an armor slot, that's cool. Like don't get me wrong. Advantage on rolls to intimidate a target, Like I think there's also the aspect of like, I don't love the flavor of this. Like, I like the thought or the image of you like, very briefly, evoking the image of your deity. It reminds me of like there's like a classic media trope where someone is like talking to a god or something, and they're like, well, and the god like kind of looks like a human, and they're like, wow, you're not that scary, and the god's like, oh, I'm not that scary, is that right? And then they like reveal their true form, like they reveal the infinity behind their appearance, that they were like cramming all of that in to like this little image of a human. And then they really quickly retract it. And, it's like this moment. It's this beat. It's not this thing that you go into for like minutes at a time. Dozens of minutes at a time, So I don't know. I would kind of prefer this if it just didn't have the second one, the advantage on rolls to intimidate a target, and didn't have the other stuff. Like if you could just spend a favor in place of an armor slot, I don't know if that would be wildly broken. But that seems closer to something that I would like. Even though that would probably, I feel like that would probably make it less powerful. Frankly, but I think I would like it more. You know. Built himself a big ass tower. Sorry, I'm reading some of Fat Yoshi stuff. This seems to be either doing concentration, right? Last until you take severe damage or the scene ends. I've seen some other features use this. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely similar to concentration. Certainly similar to concentration. And we know how I feel about concentration. I'm not super thrilled by concentration either. You know, I think there are certain abilities where concentration or a concentration-like mechanic, or you could even call it, you know, maybe a super form. I think there are situations where it's the only thing that makes sense, right? It's the only way to do that type of ability. I don't necessarily see that here, and I kind of think that it takes away a little bit from the flavor of the ability. You know? I don't know. One even utilizes Mage as a stopping point, which means you can craft these concentration abilities and hinge their duration damage thresholds. That's fair. Like, I think that mechanically, it totally functions. Like, I don't think there's, like, a super big mechanical issue. In fact, I kind of like the mechanical interaction of you being able to spend a favor to, you know, make it more likely to stay in it. Like, I kind of like the mechanical interaction of it, but I'm just not into, like, the feel of it broadly. If you're in combat, stress can get eaten up quickly. Yeah, which is all, you mean, that's a whole separate thing, yeah. That's what's weird about it, is there's no direct offensive capability to it. And I mean, even if they wanted it to just be like a purely defensive thing, that's, you know, that's fine. But I don't know. You could always flavor it as the visage flashing whenever the effect activates. Like, it only appears when you eat a hit or roll for intimidation. Yes, but you can only... I think that's like the weirdness of it to me, is that you're right, you can flavor it that way, absolutely. But if you flavor it that way, then there becomes a question of, when it's not up, why can't you do it? Because if it becomes this like momentary kind of flash, then when you're not in the transformation, why can't you do the flash? Because you're tired? Maybe. But like, this isn't me saying that there are not ways to make it make sense. There absolutely are. I mean, and I'll be very direct. I have this same sort of feel problem with Barbarian. I think Barbarians makes a little more sense because Rage as or how do I say it? No, actually, I don't even think it makes that much more sense. If Rage had a downside, maybe it would make more sense, but it really doesn't. I think you can't talk in Rage, right? Or at least that was at least, I think, the case in 5.14. So, like, there are reasons you don't want to be in Rage. If there was something like that for this, maybe it would make more sense why you're dipping in and out of it, which the thing that would make that make more sense to me is the fact that it's always there, which is why you wouldn't necessarily want it on all the time. But if it's always there, then we get back into this thing of, like, it's just feeling kind of weird to me. I don't know. There are absolutely ways to handle it. I'm just not into what I would call super forms broadly. Like, it is not a Warlock thing. It is a broadly thing for me. your professional opinion, is mayonnaise an instrument? I don't remember the last time I had mayonnaise. I agree with your suggestion for what it's worth. The intimidation feels weird when intimidation isn't explicitly a thing in Daggerheart like in D&D. Also fair. Yeah, it is essentially like a it's an experience-like ability, because we all kind of know what they mean when they say intimidation, and that's one of the things about like a rules-light system is you know, there's some give and take. There's some interpretation required when there are no keywords. Absolutely. But I don't know, man. It's the flavor of super forms has just never quite sat right in my head. And the only time it has is when they are like hyper specific. So I think theoretically you could qualify, or actually not super specific. It's when they can be gone into at any time, but there is some downside to going into them. That's where super forms make the most sense to me, is when it is basically just like almost like an alternative stance that you can go into that has positives and negatives. So something that I'll bring up as an example, one with Shadows, Warlock Invocation, or 5th edition, D&D 5th edition. Warlock Invocation, one with Shadows, is you can cast invisibility on yourself at will. But it breaks like it dissipates when you move. So it only stays up as long as you stay still and do not take any actions. I believe, or bonus actions. I'm not entirely sure about that, though. So that is a downside, right? They have additional restrictions on your abilities while you're in it. Like, you can't always be invisible because you gotta move at some point. Now, that specific implementation, you know, positives and negatives. But that's where I find I like super forms, is when they are not something you like always want to be in, because then it becomes this weird interpretation in my head where there is a certain type of power that you have where you can like go and do other things, right? You can go and do other parts of your power, but like you can't do this sometimes, or like it's not desirable. I don't know. It's very odd. This feels a bit too derivative. Maybe I could see that. I summoned the visage of my endless and incomprehensible eldritch patron, so now I am scary. Ooh, look at how scary I am. Oh shit, I failed my intimidation. I attack with no bonus. Meh. Yeah. That one, yeah. 14 rage was just you can't cast or concentrate on spells. I see. My view of superforms has always been like all might. You're pushing yourself above capacity and then you need to recover from strain afterwards. Sure. Okay. I can get down with that sort of flavorful how would I say it? Interpretation. To me, for the feature to evoke that interpretation, I would want it to have some manner of downside after you drop out of it. So say something like the frenzied the berserker barbarian, their frenzied rage, right? I really like the implementation of that in Baldur's Gate 3, where when you take your frenzied attack, basically when you use the benefit of your super form, there is this downside, right? So it is a tactical sort of decision on if you want to be into it. For me, and I mean, you know, I think they're going after that. Like, I do see why you interpret this that way. To me, marking a stress is not quite enough to evoke that from me, I would want it to be something more along the lines of like, I don't know, man. I don't know exactly what I would want. It's maybe something like you can go into it at any time, but when you do an action within it, you gain a stress. That seems like too much. But I do see what you're saying about like the pushing yourself kind of motif. But this, to me, doesn't quite evoke that. It's close, though. I do see what you're saying, especially with the mark of stress. But it doesn't quite get there for me, you know? And responding to your phone. Don't worry, I'm going to get it, Granny. She has not. Marking a stress to activate is basically that. It's close. It is close. And I do see how to someone else it would feel that way. But I think I have too much of an abstracted view of stress where, like, how do I say it? I think I view stress a bit too much as a class resource, which, you know, I could see my opinion changing if I actually played it, because maybe I would feel more precious about my stress. But I will say, from when I ran Sablewood back in one of the betas, I don't remember which beta it was, so it might be that maybe stress has changed a little bit, maybe some other things around it have changed. But when I played, stress was not a thing that the players were like super precious about. It didn't feel like necessarily like giving them a stress was like ticking down a clock. You know what I'm saying? It still felt good. Like I didn't necessarily have a problem with how stress was implemented, but I didn't quite get that like visceral feel. But again, that was in the betas. Maybe I would feel differently in full release. And if I did feel that way, you know, maybe this would have something for me, because there is a downside to going into it that you have to mark a stress to get into it. It's not like you just have to like spend favor to get into it. You know, you have to mark a stress, and that is, you know, that I guess is the downside of going into it. Yeah, I don't know. But I will say, even in that like idealized version of it that I'm kind of talking about, and that I'm maybe getting more convinced that this strikes, that still just makes me kind of okay with it. I'm kind of like, meh, whatever. Like, at that point, it's something that I don't like actively dislike. But I did like, I will say, I think the best version, or not the best version, the version I have personally liked the most, that I felt the most like it evoked a cool fantasy to me and like a good like flavor motif, was the Frenzy Barbarian in Baldur's Gate 3 specifically, where using the benefits of the frenzy slowly made you worse over the course of being enraged. Because not only did it mean that there was, you know, kind of this trade-off, but it also meant there was eventually a reason for you to want to drop it. And I think that is also one of the factors to me. Because I think I think I've maybe touched on what the issue is. Why this doesn't all the way get there for me. If it is pushing yourself, we're seeing my brain working in real time. I just realized what it is for me. If this is me pushing myself, I should get tired over the course of using it. I think that's the problem for me, is that going into Patron's Mantle and staying in it for one turn is equally as quote-unquote exhausting as going into it and staying in it for 10 or 20 minutes and using its abilities and using its benefits the whole time. I think that is why I like BG3 Frenzy Barbarian, and why I'm not as into, Barbarian or Old Wild Shape, or why? No, that's not even a good example. But why I'm not as into these other things. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It would have to be something like take a stress for each turn you're keeping it active to represent strain. Yes. Something along those lines. That would be too much, obviously. And turns, and I totally get it. Turns are hard to represent mechanically. Or, no, they're not necessarily hard to represent. They're actually, how do I say it? It would have to be like any time anyone gains hope or fear, you take a stress. But see, then I don't love that because it discourages action. It's hard. It's hard to implement that. So I don't know. This I'm tepid about. It's like we're close to something that I maybe like, but super forms in general, I have a high bar to like them in the first place. Just join. What's the verdict? Is the new Warlock clicking for you? Well, I will say Pact of the Endless. So far, I'm one ability in, not clicking for me. Fucking the baseline Warlock ability, Favor, really clicked with me. I fucking love Favor. And I love Patron's Boon. And I was very ready to not like them. Especially when I read Patron's Boon. I was super ready to not like it. But I love it. Love it. So far, Pact of the Endless isn't scratching my itch, but there are other subclasses. You can mark a stress when you either fail or succeed. Yeah, there's something there. It's like you maybe even something like, maybe something like you can, maybe you have to mark a stress to get into it so that you're not in it permanently. And then instead of spending a favor, maybe just mark a stress in place of your armor slot. Or like roll 1d6 on a 1, mark a stress whenever you use one of the abilities. I could see something like that. I think something like that I could be into. So it's like you can spend a favor in place of an armor slot. You have advantage on rolls to intimidate a target. Whenever you do either one of these, you roll 1d6. And like, if the result is less than your stored favor, maybe, the condition ends. I'm not super confident in that, but that's maybe closer. Makes it random/gambling without any additional rolling. Yeah, mine did. Mine did involve additional rolling. To be fair. Stress is a half clock. It's nothing until you're maxed out, then it's huge. Yeah. So stress didn't stress them out? Not really. Stress only clears on a crit or downtime or a potion? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it takes more stress using combat rather than out of it, although the line between those might not be super clear. Yeah, and I like that the line isn't super clear between those. I wouldn't want to start artificially drawing that line. But I think the chat is honing in on the things that I would like more. I think you guys are getting it. There's, and you can kind of see how this gets kind of close, but it doesn't quite kind of get what I would want in my head. Yeah. Any implementation of straining to get more powerful inherently discourages action to some degree. To some degree, yes. Yes, it does. Which is probably why you're inherently iffy on it. Hey, you know what? Hey, fair enough. That is, I will not, yeah, I'll hold my hands up on that one, probably. If any class is a match for gambling, it's Warlock. Yeah. Well, yeah. Mechanically, stress is a bit messy. It is a resource, but it's also a punishment. It's sometimes awkward at the line. Yeah. Mechanical difference is that hope is cheap, stress is expensive. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's a final review. It's close, but I could use a bit of zhuzhing to get really behind it. Deadly Devotion. After you make a successful attack, you can spend a favor to give your evasion a +1 bonus until the next time an attack succeeds against you. Otherwise, the bonus lasts until your next rest. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Yeah. I like that there's a bit of... Like, both of these, it's an interesting... It's kind of like a little bit of a tank lock, which I don't hate. What was there? I didn't even look at their, like, a armor and evasion. I don't remember how that works. Starts at 11, minor, major, severe. Add your current level to your damage thresholds. Are these things not determined by your class anymore? Are any of these determined by your class? I thought at least evasion was. Am I crazy? What's going on here? Starting evasion, starting hit points. Okay. So I'm assuming then starting HP is 5. Is that different for some? Starting evasion is. Okay, so starts at 11. So okay. Bard. So a bard's starting evasion is 10, so they're a little bit more evasive than a bard. Brawler, hello. Oh, wait, I can view class outside of the PDF? Oh my god. Wait, also it says starting evasion is 10 on here. What's going on? Are these... Is this 1.4 or is this 1.3? Oh no. Wait. What is... There are mods? That's weird. It is kind of weird. It also says starting HP is 6. Which this has starting HP at 5. What's going on here? Is this what... Let me look up 1.3. Let's see. I'm gonna take a guess and say that's 1.3. Aha! Evasion starting at 10. HP 1.3. Ah, so this is more current. Okay. This is more current. What time is it where you are? Is it like 6 p.m. local? Yes. You know, that's such a good point, Mike. And I might have to go, chat. We'll look at the Warlock subclasses another time. Totally fucking unrelated. Man, oh, what? Yawn! I'm so sleepy. I'm tired. I'm sleepy. Me. Honk shoe. I gotta go to bed. It's late, chat. I'm so sorry. So takeaway, I love base Warlock. Gotta look into the subclasses more. And I'll see you later. Thanks for the reminder, Mike. Peace out. Goodbye.